Hey y'all, Jim here with Sunrise Farm. Thanks so much for stopping by today. Today is mid-December, a few days before Christmas, and it is a cool, brisk morning. The breeze is blowing about 35-ish degrees or so, but it's a beautiful sunshiny day. You can probably tell by the video. So the sunshine comes out, you start feeling the warmth of the day. It'll probably warm up to about 50 or so today, 55, somewhere in there maybe. But yeah, so it's just a beautiful day to do some things. And I thought in this video we would go over some things. We're making improvements on our farm. We're carrying more towards a no-till, true market farm style, and we're doing a lot of things to try to make our lives more farm happy, if you will, by becoming more and more weed-free if possible. Um, so let me just show you some of the changes we're making, and appreciate you stopping by. So the first thing I want to show y'all is this is the my driveway that goes out to the road. Might be a little difficult to see that it goes out that far to the road, but I promise you that's where the road is. So that's where my driveway begins. And so I'll do a little panorama of my yard. This part of my yard, and that's big piles of leaf mulch. And over there, it's hard to see in the backdrop of the fence, but that's part of my market farm that I already have set up. And then of course my home, and then my shop in the background, and the continuation of my driveway. And part of what I want to talk about today is this side of my driveway becoming a total raised bed garden area, which is I'll show you what I'm working on there. But also over here, this entirety front part of my yard is also going to become part of the farm. Roughly where I'm currently standing is going to be a fenced area that'll start at my house, come out to the wood line, and cut across to what I've already done with my farm that exists. And this entire front yard is going to become farm. So let me give you a little bit of a perspective. Out here where these leaf mulch piles are, which is how I'm currently filling my raised beds. This is a development from really starting back somewhere around February. I had leaf mulch trucks come by repeatedly, and I had made numerous Facebook posts for my local area to get leaf mulch here. And I had a few companies respond, and one of them came 2, 3 times a week for months. So a lot of this stuff has been sitting here for at least 6 months, if not more. But right where these leaf mulch piles are, this wood line that's right over here, the wood line is going to become that's going to be where I turn my fence, and my fence is going to go over that way to my garden. But those piles of leaf mulch are going to become high tunnels. We want at least 3 over the course of the next few years. We've applied for a grant for one. We won't know if we get that probably till February, but either way, this is what we want to do. So we want to put 3 high tunnels in this area, and then as we pan this way, and the high tunnels, by the way, will run from where I'm standing over to my garden. And we're planning on them being 21 foot wide by 100 foot long. At least right now, my current thinking is I'll probably get them from Farmer's Friend. And so, anyway, we'll see how that pans out. And as I pan forward, in this general area that'll be closest to the driveway, um, we're going to put in uh, an okra plot. And it's going to be, I'm getting a silage tarp probably in the next several weeks, um, probably within the next 3 weeks, I guess. I'll be getting a silage tarp, and that silage tarp is going to be 50 feet wide by 100 foot long. And that silage tarp, I'm going to use it in many things, but the very first thing I'm going to do with it is I'm going to lay it out in this general area. If I can just switch this side, I'm going to lay it out in this general area right here, and we're going to make an okra plot. we discovered in our market this year. I mean, I live in the South, and okra is big anyway in the spring summertime. We did not realize how big it was until we got into the market. Um, yeah, I could go through probably 100 pounds a week easy of okra if I had it. At any rate, we're going to put a plot here of okra. That okra we're going to be planting probably uh about 2,000 plants, something like that, maybe. So about yeah. If you know anything about okra, woo, that's gonna be a lot of harvesting. That's gonna be like on the daily, if not twice a day. Okra can grow that fast in the middle of summer. Um, so anyway, part of it's going to be a okra plot, and then the rest of my front yard. So I'll have the okra plot and the high tunnel, and the rest of my front yard is going to be chicken pasture. So that chicken pasture, roughly speaking, where you see those stacks of floor trusses over there, would be about the end of my third high tunnel going across. So from that stack of trusses, minus the okra, try not to kick the camera stand there. So from that stack of trusses all the way, there's kind of a block wall right there that's just kind of blocking my septic tank. So not quite that far forward, but most of the way through the front yard, but minus the okra plot, it's going to be chicken pasture. And I'm probably going to divide it into two. But these are going to be, they might be for our laying hens as we get them. And stay tuned. I have a surprise for you coming up for that. Uh, but they're probably going to be for meat birds because we're going to get into meat birds this coming year for sure. And so when you walk on around, you come over here to my side, we call it the driveway plot. Sit down a second. Anyways, so we call this side the driveway plot. It's going to house all raised beds, and there's a couple of distinct purposes. First of all, we were trying to use every single bit of growing area we can. We realized just how much we want this farm to work, how much we love it, how many things we want to grow, how many farmers markets we want to be in going forward in the future, and doing subscription boxes and doing ministry boxes. So we realized that we need probably twice to three times the amount of space we'd even already laid out. Right now, I laid out about 3/4 of an acre. And to be perfectly honest, I have yet to have it 100% planted, but we know through last year doing our first farmers market here in our community, the changes we needed to make. So those changes are underway. And no, those changes will not all occur in one season. They just can't. I mean, there's only so much physical time and, quite frankly, money to go around. But they're going to be continuous changes over the next handful of years. As fast as I can do them, as hard as I can. But a couple of the distinct purposes for this, what we'll call the driveway plot, is twofold. As you can see, the tree line behind me, the sun sets behind me, behind those tree lines. Yes, we opened it up some when we had the property timbered a couple of months back. Did a whole series of videos on that. Go back and watch them on my channel. Uh, but still, it's going to provide a lot of afternoon shade. So after about 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of summer, this area starts getting some shade. And so for different plants that need afternoon shade from our intense heat, then this will be a spot for them. But also, this is going to be a large part of what I call my trial and error plots. Uh, 'Cause there's going to be, I don't even know how many raised beds will ultimately be in here, probably probably anywhere from 12 to 20. Um, and this whole area will be fenced off in and of itself. But anyway, so there'll be a lot of testing going on, testing of types of produce we want to grow, testing of variations of um, plant spacing, and just so forth and so on. Anything that you can think of that would, that you'd want to test out, maybe test one distinct variety over another, even if they're the exact same plant, meaning uh, two collards, for example. Planting two collards side by side of completely different varieties and see which one maybe does better. Anyway, there's so many things you can do with this. So it's going to operate as our test plot as well as some other things. So let me just show you what I did with this one or when the project I have underway. And then I'll show you the back plot where I'm making changes, which is what obviously the thumbnail was about. So, all right. So what I have right here are two, um, well, a set of floor trusses, two high. So these are double stacked to make them. I believe in this case, this one's 22 inches high. I think they were. Oh, here, got tapes on me. Let me check. Yeah, 22 inches high because these trusses were 11 inches. These four joists were 11 inches. So this bed's, excuse me again, this bed's 22 inches high and it is, uh, let's see, it is 12 feet. And I know the other measurement is 6 feet. So it is 6 by 12. Now, if you thought to yourself immediately, how are you going to reach the middle? The answer, not very easily. Um, I've already made the determination that the middle of this bed is going to be very difficult to reach from either side, but we're going to end up doing some kind of perennial style plants in there, be it flowers or a produce of some sort. And that way, um, we can just not fight with the middle trying to reach it all the time. Probably be flowers, if I'm being honest. Which is just fine because we need pollinators on this side anyway, so probably do it that way. And then I've got this 3 foot wide weed barrier. It's a woven wheat fabric, 3.2 ounce. I really wouldn't recommend you getting anything cheaper or thinner or even straight plastic for a weed barrier that will not hold up properly. But we have this weed barrier here. We got this from very inexpensively from Vevor. That's VEVOR.com. And what I'm going to do with it, obviously, you can see that I laid it down before I put the floor trusses down so that I have the weed barrier from the outside where no weeds will grow up the side of this bed. But I'm also going to take and wrap that weed barrier inside as my break or the way to hold the leaf mulch in there. So that weed barrier will get wrapped around the entirety of the thing. I'll staple it and then we'll go from there as far as just filling it with leaf mulch. And then that leaf mulch will compress down over time. And ultimately, whether it's in a few months or however point we get some more compost, we'll get at least 3 to 7 inches of compost built up on the top of this as we go forward. So, like I said, we have that bed that we'll be putting that weed barrier up as a blockade for the floor truss. And then I've got a couple of cross members here that are going to go in from this side to that side to act as a support to try to make sure it doesn't want to bow out. And so you look at this next bed beside it. This is where I've have those parsnips coming up. But this is where I have all my garlic coming up. Garlic's doing great. Here's a trial bed of onions I'm doing. This trial bed is 18 inches by 8 feet, so it's not very big. Why I call it a trial bed is because, like I said, when these onions get to late spring and start doing their big bulbing, they like sun. So I'm curious to see what they'll do with afternoon shade, if they'll still grow big compared to where I'm going to have them in my actual market garden. So, well, let's head on over and I'll show you what I am doing in the market garden. All right, so we're over behind my house now, behind my back porch. Here's the beginning of my market garden. My little greenhouse is over there with my pump house and another good sized pile of leaf mulch. And I've been working on making these changes to permanent raised rows. And as you can see, I put a weed barrier down in my walkways. And ultimately, this pile of wood chip, and ultimately, this pile of pure wood chips, I'll put down in my walkways. And as I get more wood chips through the years, I'll put them all down. And there's a couple of reasons why I'm going to put wood chips down. First of which is I don't know how warm that weed barrier will get. I have one of my sons who's going to be helping me, the youngest one. He doesn't mind walking around in his bare feet and kind of quite likes it. So I also have a grandchild that kind of likes doing that. So if I don't want it to be too hot in the summer, are the wood chips any better for bare feet? I can't say that they are. I'm not a barefoot kind of guy. However, the main reason I'm going to do it is it's too easy to drop something in that plastic, put a hole in it, and anywhere you put a hole in it, it's pretty much sunlight's gonna find it, and there come the weeds. I'd rather avoid that, and I'd rather just put down wood chips. And you see a lot of market gardeners put down wood chips. It's just they're not doing the one step I am doing. And I'll show you up close a little bit about what that is. But I'm just gonna pan a little bit coming around. Oh, if I don't get the camera hung up like that, sorry. Coming around, and so I'm going to be doing a lot more of raised beds, and of course I'm going to be converting everything to raised rows. There is that one raised bed I made out of floor trusses, and then this is the only completed raised row I have. And let me show you what's going to happen to those other ones. But also, while I'm at it, since I'm on the back side of my house and that's how my farm carries on out, I'm also going to be putting raised beds along the perimeter of my house. I'm going to wrap my porch with raised beds, and I'm going to come back here and put a raised bed and some on the other end of my house. So this is the one completed raised row that is framed in two by fours high. Even though today's video is not about the build, I promise you I will do a build video on these. Now this is not uncommon for market gardeners to do permanent raised rows. And this one's 7 inches deep because that's how tall two by fours are. And as you can see, I have a few things growing and trialing out. Some lettuce at this end, some celery over there, which ironically took a lot of abuse with cold and a storm, and yet it's coming back. I'm just curious to see what happens. At this point, it's more of an experiment. All right, well, let's talk about what's going on in here. As you can see back behind me, that was the original raised bed that I started to build at the beginning of last year. Ran out of time, put some potatoes in there. They grew okay. Um, but it's going to get completed here in this process. Right now, I'm simply laying out my raised rows. I have string lines from bed to bed, so I have the beginning and end of my rows. And then I measure from the beds where I want the rows. The first two rows are 30 inches. All beds have 24 inches in between. Technically speaking, by the time I put the framing on to 2x4s, that's -3. So the actual walk space is 21 inches. So it's going to be 30-inch raised row, 30-inch raised row, and then four 36-inch raised rows leading up to that other side of that raised bed right there. The reason for the difference in measurements. The 30-inch raised rows are going to end up having permanent cattle trellis. And I'll show you, I've described it before in other videos, and when I get to the build, I'll show you. Um, I don't even currently have the materials yet on site for that, but basically they're going to be cattle panels. And then on top of that, I'm going to put PVC coming off of the T-post with T's going across, and I'm going to lay a cattle panel on top horizontally. Why? Well, these are all going to be for permanent trellised things or trellis fruits and vegetables, such as cucumbers, cherry tomatoes, cantaloupe, butternut squash, and whatever else it is that you may grow that you want to grow like that. You might try our spaghetti squash that way as well. Um, and so the 30-inch wide is all I need to double row those things. So I'm going to plant a row about 6, 8 inches off of it on both sides of whatever that item is, cucumbers, pickling cucumbers, and let them use that trellis system for their life. They don't need much more room than 30 inches. Plus, in this particular case, it's how I ended up laying it out when I changed my system of permanent rows inside the raised beds I'd already laid out in the first place. Uh, at the beginning of last season, if you haven't seen any of those videos, this was nothing more than I tilled the entire thing inside the two raised beds and laid it out and planted it. No more of that. I'm trying to go to a no-till situation. Um, I may not get there 100% this year, but that's the ultimate goal, is to go to a no-till situation. Quite frankly, I find it to be aggravating, a waste of my time, and well, all I do is stir up weeds. So, but that being said, I'm not knocking tilling. I'll have to do some tilling, but now if I do any tilling, I'm going to be tilling only where I'm planting. I'm not going to be tilling unnecessary ground. Uh, and that's only until I can get all of this converted and get enough compost and so forth and so on over the next year or two. So at any rate, that's how they're laid out. So that's a walk space bed, so forth and so on. And they'll be all too high. Every single one of these will look exactly like what I just showed you over there with the finished one. So I only have one down right now, one high down right now, because I'm simply trying to go through and lay them all out, get all my uh, weed barrier laid down, and just try to get everything worked out and laid out. As you can see, I've already put in a bunch of stakes for several of these rows. We did a bunch of these, and I got two more ready. Actually, let me back up. I only put in one row of stakes. My son, God bless him, was off one day and offered to help. He put in all the rest of the stakes while I was doing other things. What a blessing! When you have help, you don't even know what to do sometimes when you have help. So anyway, so these are just some of the changes we're making. There's a spot on the front of my house I really didn't show you in this video, but you'll see it when I get to it. There's a bunch of shrubs and a couple of trees each end that were there when we bought the place. My wife never did like them in the first place, but now we know we're going to rip all of those out, and the entirety of our front of our house is going to become raised beds. We're gonna be raised row and raised bed silly around here, having a big market garden. Um, I think I started to mention it, or maybe I did mention at the beginning of this video, but currently what I have laid out as a market garden is a close to 3/4 of an acre, maybe just shy. But by the time's all said and done, with the high tunnels, the front yard with the okra plot, the driveway side, we're easily going to be at an acre and a half of the market farm. And you can grow a absolute ton of stuff in an acre and a half market farm. So I hope you'll keep with us on the journey and see all the updates and upgrades as we make them. And hope you all appreciate what we're trying to accomplish here. If you have any thoughts or comments, I sure would love to know them. Maybe you have some great suggestions I haven't thought of yet. Um, Getting resources obviously on a budget is one of the keys to trying to do this. If it wasn't, and I will explain it more as I go forward, making some build videos and stuff. But simply put, if it wasn't for being in the construction world all my life and having some background knowledge of how I can get sourced materials cheaper, I may have not known about these things. And I'm going to share them with you. But just about the lumber alone, and I don't even know if I've even showed them in a video yet. Um, but I have two giant stacks of what's called boneyard house trusses. That's also how I got the floor trusses. I got them extremely, extremely. Why? Because when a trust company, a roof truss, that's TRUSS, when a trust company sends an order through their plant, and then either for whatever reason, either they mismade it or the homeowner or contractor goes out of business, cancels, whatever the reason is, can't get the final, whatever. Um, and they nothing they can do. The best they can hope for is to sell them for a little bit of money and recover some of their cost. But honestly, if you know that industry or know industries like it, they've got all of these trusses taking up valuable either warehouse or yard space that they need to put all their other stuff that is actually being sold. So it's called boneyard trusses, and they could sit there for years. So not everything that you get is good, but when you go in there and you agree, what I say is an extremely dirt cheap price to take off of their hands whatever they've got, and in my case, get the delivery for it, because you can't haul them things on a truck. Not on the truck I have anyway, but that way. It's a deal that can't be beat. You get all this lumber and material. Yes, I've got to take a chainsaw to it and then fine tune it with my miter saw and what have you, but it is just so much better and significant. And I'll bring it right back to why am I doing this? Well, first of all, if I'm being very honest, I'm OCD to no end. It may not look like it with a lot of my farm, and sometimes I lay awake and like thinking about it. But I like things square and neat. I like things tidied. And so with the framing out of my raised rows, the other thing that it does that I see constantly other market farmers on YouTube talk about, even in blogs and other things that I research, websites, they deal with erosion, meaning, you're just mounding up the compost, and so it washes out over time. And or if you get a major storm like happened to us last year, I do know one other person relatively in my area that does this same type of market farming, and they lost absolutely everything because all of their compost washed out of their raised rows. Well, that's something I don't want to have happen. And so this is one of the major reasons, besides my OCD, but this is one of the major reasons why I'm doing it this way. It's not for everybody, obviously. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of infrastructure. And of course, it costs money. Even buying lumber on the cheap, it costs money. So it's not for everybody. I get it. But for me, for our family, going forward, trying to make sure our farm is sustainable, because this is just as much about feeding our community as it is making a living for us. I need this to hold up and be as right as possible. And of course, I will, I assume this lumber to last at least 3 to 5 years in these kind of conditions. There will obviously be maintenance. There will obviously be more lumber I need to get, which at some point I'll have to start actually just purchasing lumber. But um, there you have it. So anyway, um, yeah. So please let me know your thoughts. Sorry, this was not a short video. I talked a lot longer than I anticipated, but hey, when you get on a roll sometimes, you know how it goes. Um, and I just want to know how, I just want you to know rather, how much we are so grateful and thankful and appreciative of you watching this video. It really is a blessing to my heart. And if I could say one other thing about here, like I said, we're only a few days before Christmas. Um, I don't know your particular religious affiliation as you watch this video, but for me, I'm very blunt and bold about mine. I'm a Christian. And for my beliefs, my deepest heartfelt beliefs, I just pray that this time of year, you truly are soaking in what is actually the true, real gift of Christmas, and that is Jesus Christ and the salvation that he offers. I can't overstate that enough. That my desire for you is to know my Lord and Savior is yours. And I pray that you do today. Thanks so much for watching this video. I look forward to for y'all to see more and more of this as we do upgrades over the next couple of months. And as I do some more builds, I will film out some build videos on exactly what I'm doing, and I'll show you the trusses and all too. So again, thank you so much. You're a blessing to my heart. Take care. God bless you. Merry Christmas. Have an amazing day in the Lord, and we'll see you next time.